Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. You're playing a game, any game, it doesn't matter which one. Your friends or guilds or clans or whatever aren't online. So you decide, you know what, let's just jump into some matchmaking and let it find us some teammates so that we can get some stuff done. You get into the activity and it is just not going well. You're dying, teammates are dying, maybe you're losing the match or trapped in some boss arena that you just can't clear. Your teammates start saying, oh, it's the healer's fault, it's the support's fault. And you're left wondering, what is it that you're doing wrong? Are you doing anything wrong? Your friends always tell you what a good healer you are. Have they just been lying to you this whole time? Or maybe you just have bad teammates who don't know what they're doing. Fear not, my young healers, supports, and medics. My name's Doc, your host for all things healing, and I have been a healer, support, medic, whatever your game calls it, for many years now. And during most of that time, I have been pretty much exclusively solo queuing. So, I have picked up some tips and tricks that you can bring into any game that can hopefully help you heal and support your random teammates to the best of your abilities. So sit back, relax, grab a beverage, and let's get into this. Tip number 1. Be mindful of spacing and positioning. While your other teammates should be aware of where their teammates are, mainly you, their main concern is going to be where the enemies are. And this will be accentuated by random groups, as these groups will tend to have less organization and cooperation than pre-made groups, which is completely understandable. So how do we manage this? Well, firstly, we should plan to be mobile. With teammates being more spaced out, we need to make sure that we position ourselves in a way that we can be aware of where our entire team is and be prepared to move out of position to save someone at a moment's notice. Keep in mind that this doesn't necessarily mean to sit way in the back and wait for someone to take damage. While playing behind your team will often be advantageous, don't be afraid to position yourself in between teammates if someone is playing a sniper character or a ranged build. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to constantly have everyone in your field of view. It's having knowledge of where your teammates are and being in an optimal position to provide support to them. TLDR, your teammates will probably be spread out, so make sure you can still get to them from where you're standing. Tip number 2, remember that you are a target. This is going to be more true in PvP games than PvE games, but these tips should hopefully still be useful in both. Kind of going back to our previous point, remember that teammates will more than likely not be super aware of where you are. On top of that, in many games, a winning strategy is to target the healer or support or medic first. Even in PvE games, enemies can still target you and do plenty of damage. So how do we handle this? In most games, you will have plenty of methods of escaping or fighting back. While healing and supporting is your top priority, you can't do that if you're dead. Random teammates may not always be aware that you're in trouble, so you need to have some sort of plan of action when you realize that you have to save yourself. In some games, it may be a perk or ability or something that allows you to move quickly out of danger. In others, it could be that you have the healing to sustain yourself through damage and just need to move into range to receive help. Finally, don't be afraid to fight back if your game gives you the means to do so. You are a healer, not helpless. Chances are you won't be doing as much damage as your teammates, but even in games where healers and supports barely do any damage, it can usually at least be enough to show your enemy that you're not worth the trouble. TLDR, have a plan to escape or fight back. You're not good to anyone if you're on the ground. Tip number 3, communication will be limited. For my PC people, this may be a tad easier because we're able to type things in chat pretty easily. For my console players though, this will be especially true for you guys. Regardless of the platform or game, though, I don't think it's a hot take to say that you will have less communication with your random groups than with pre-made groups. How can we solve this? Various games will have methods of communication outside of text and voice chat. It could be anything from voice commands to pings to markers and all sorts of other things. If you know you're going to mainly play this game with pugs, then become familiar with what communication tools that game gives you. If an enemy gets around the group and is putting pressure on you, a ping or a need help voice command is still preferable to silence. It may not be much, but you'd be surprised how much you can get across to your teammates with simple pings, gestures, and voice lines. TLDR, pings, and voice commands can be very useful for the solo queue healer. Tip number 4, adapt, adapt, adapt. When gaming with random teammates, you will have a mixed bag of teammates, and no two activities will ever be the same. I don't just mean skill or knowledge levels either. Everything from builds to pacing to strategies all could be extremely optimized or unoptimized, and everything in between. One of the most important things you can do as a healer or support or whatever is be able to take in as much information about your teammates as possible in a short amount of time, and then adapt your playstyle to fit the team. A well-rounded kit will be your best friend in this scenario. Ask yourself questions like, does this team need a lot of healing, or am I good to play a bit more aggressively? Do I need to bring a little more mobility to keep up with my teammates, or maybe do I need to slow down a little bit? Does my build, skills, character, whatever, complement my teammates even in the smallest way? Now, am I saying you need to be some Inspector Gadget healer that can just play perfectly with every single group you come across? Of course not. Sometimes we just won't work well with our teammates that we're paired with, and that's okay. All I'm getting at is that being an adaptable healer who has the capacity to accommodate their teammates even just a little bit is worth their weight in gold. TLDR, try your best to adapt to your teammates' playstyle. Tip number 5, knowledge is power. I want to preface this tip specifically by saying that this may not be an option for everyone. If it is, I figured I'd just encourage it. When I say knowledge is power, I mean having some sort of expertise in whatever it is you're doing. Whether that's getting some time in with a hero or weapon in a practice range, getting your skill rotations down, understanding activity mechanics, current metas, enemy types, etc. Remember that most groups will expect you to have some sort of knowledge of whatever it is you're doing, unless specified otherwise. With most games, there are usually plenty of in-game and online resources to help out with all aspects of it. If you're trying to learn a new hero or build or whatever, or maybe this is just your first time in this map or activity, it might be a kindness to just let your teammates know. This can be a good way of avoiding potential toxicity, and someone may even be willing to teach you. TLDR, doing a little research or practice before diving into something can go a long way and give you a huge head start. Tip number 6, overcoming toxicity. Look, you're a healer or support or medic or whatever you are. You know as well as I do that you're going to get blamed for things, whether they're your fault or not. It's important to remember that in random groups, you have a good chance that you're more likely to experience toxicity. I won't go too in depth with this one because I do plan on making a separate video about it at some point, but the main idea is basically just to not give in. People are going to flame you, people are going to blame you, people are going to berate you. Don't engage with toxic chats because it's never worth it. All you're going to do is feed their ego, and you'll spend more time typing or talking than actually playing. On the other hand, don't be the one to incite the toxicity either. Look, I get it. Sometimes your DPS can't hit the broadside of a barn, or your tank has gotten melted for the 42nd time this run. Here's the thing. You can't flame people into playing better. Getting an attitude or being aggressive towards people in chat will do nothing other than sabotage your own game. Take a deep breath, focus on playing well, and remember that whatever it is you're doing will end eventually. TLDR, don't engage with toxic people, and don't be toxic yourself. Tip number 7, do your best. That's it. That's all anyone can ask of you. Sometimes you'll have a bad game, sometimes you'll get unlucky, sometimes you'll just get a bad team. Remember that the only thing you can control is yourself. You'll have better games, you'll get different teammates, you'll get that luck eventually. Take all that energy that you'd put towards being upset at your randoms and use it as motivation to improve. You can always practice, learn, and try again with new teammates. If you're playing well or making progress in whatever you're doing, you should be proud of that, regardless of how your team as a whole is doing. Finally, tip number 8. This is supposed to be fun. Never forget that at the end of the day, this is a game, a hobby, whatever, or maybe even a passion for you. Regardless of what it is to you, it should be fun. It's totally natural to feel tilted every now and then. As much as I do my best to remain positive, even I get a little tilted and a little frustrated myself. It happens to all of us, and it's natural. Though if you're not having fun, you're allowed to take a step back. Try a different role, run a different activity, play a different game, or maybe even just take a short break from gaming altogether. Your favorite game will likely still be there in an hour, a day, a week, a month, or even a year. At the end of the day, if you're not having fun or feeling a sense of accomplishment, then there's no reason to continue doing whatever it is you're doing. Life's too short to spend it on doing something that doesn't make you happy or give you a sense of achievement. Okay, well, I think that's about it. I'm sure there's probably more advice I could find to give, but I think I've covered the main points and I didn't want this video to turn out too terribly long. I also hope that this didn't come across as a slight against people who solo queue, because it's pretty much the only way that I play these days, so it definitely wasn't meant to be. There are plenty of awesome solo queue teammates out there that I have run into. I'm just kind of giving some advice and just giving kind of a guide to people who may be feeling frustrated, confused, or angry towards solo queue experiences in any game. By no means am I some top tier gift to every game that I touch, but I do hope that my years of experience can provide some value to anyone out there, but especially to my fellow healers. If you've got any other tips or words of encouragement to share, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I also do apologize that I was not able to get another video out this week. It has been a crazy, busy time at work, and the missus and I are actually celebrating our 1-year wedding anniversary this weekend. Don't you worry though, I promise we are getting back to our normal schedule after this weekend. All the videos, all the streams, all of that will resume as normal. If you've made it this far, as always, know that I sincerely appreciate you. And I think all I've got left to say is that I've been Doc. Take care of yourselves, be good to others, don't forget to say GG, and I will catch y'all in the next one.